The most haunting part of the episode 8 first look is Galliano's presence, because whenever he enters the picture, Hope quietly leaves the room. His conversation with Tommy feels less like advice and more like a verdict that has already been decided. Galliano doesn't speak in hypotheticals or comforting half-truths. He speaks with the certainty of someone who has seen this exact story end the same way countless times before. When he suggests that the company died the moment Cammy's husband died, it lands like a sentence, not an opinion. And what makes it even more painful is that Tommy doesn't argue back. He listens. That silence says everything. It tells us that deep down, Tommy already knows this might be true. The trailer frames this realization as a turning point, not just for the company, but for Tommy as a person. Up until now, he has been trying to fix things, to patch cracks, to delay collapse. But episode 8 hints that he may finally understand the difference between saving something and refusing to let it go. This is where the emotional weight of the season really comes together. Cammy's faith, Nate's warnings, Rebecca's fear, Charlie's risk obsession, and Galliano's cold realism all converge into one unbearable truth. Someone has to carry the blame when the illusion finally breaks, and all signs point to Tommy being that person. The trailer also suggests that his refusal to fully open up to Cammy will come at a cost, not because she is cruel or demanding, but because belief without honesty is fragile. When it shatters completely. Episode 8 doesn't tease dramatic confrontations or loud explosions. Instead, it teases something far more devastating: quiet acceptance, the kind that settles in slowly and changes how you see everything. By the end of the trailer, it becomes clear that this episode isn't about turning the company into a success story. It's about understanding when a fight is no longer about winning, but about facing the truth without running from it. By the time the episode 8 trailer comes to an end, one feeling dominates everything else: inevitability. This doesn't feel like an episode that will shock us with sudden twists. It feels like one that will hurt because we can see the outcome coming and still be powerless to stop it. The show has spent the entire season slowly tightening this noose, and episode 8 looks like the moment it finally pulls. Tommy's journey reaches a point where leadership becomes loneliness. Every decision isolates him further, and every truth he avoids telling only makes the final reckoning worse. What's especially unsettling is how calm everything appears on the surface. There's no panic, no chaos, just people continuing to do their jobs while standing on the edge of something irreversible. Rebecca's storyline, which felt oddly resolved in episode 7, now makes sense in hindsight. She wasn't meant to fall yet because she is meant to witness the collapse from the inside. Nate's warnings are no longer theoretical. They are alarms that have been ringing for a long time, and episode 8 suggests that ignoring them will no longer be an option. Even the absence of Cooper and Ariana in the trailer feels intentional, as if the show is temporarily stepping away from personal happiness to focus on institutional failure. Episode 8 feels like the kind of chapter that redefines the rest of the season, not because everything ends here, but because everything changes. The stakes are no longer about saving the company. They're about accountability, legacy, and the cost of holding on to something that may already be gone. If episode 7 was the silence before the storm, episode 8 looks like the moment the storm finally makes landfall. And once it does, there will be no pretending that this was ever avoidable. The episode 8 trailer wastes absolutely no time reminding us that Landman has always been about consequences. From the very first moments, the tone shifts into something far more serious and unsettling. The story is no longer circling around small personal conflicts or awkward relationship dynamics. Instead, everything starts pointing directly at Tommy, and for the first time this season, he looks genuinely cornered. The confidence he usually hides behind is cracking, and the trailer makes it painfully obvious that the decisions he's been delaying are no longer optional. The pressure from Nate feels sharper now, less controlled, almost desperate, as if the numbers on paper have finally turned into real threats. What stood out to me the most is how the trailer frames responsibility. There is no escaping it anymore. The hurricane, the blowout, the drilling risks, and the insurance mess are no longer abstract problems. They all have a face now, and that face is Tommy's. Even when Cammy appears, there's this quiet expectation hanging in the air. She believes in him. She truly thinks he can save the company, and that belief somehow makes the situation even more terrifying. Because failing isn't just about money anymore, it's about disappointing someone who still has hope. At the same time, the trailer subtly reminds us that Rebecca's instincts were right all along. Her fear in episode 7 wasn't overreaction, it was intuition. While she may not be the one on the chopping block, the system around her is clearly starting to collapse. The pacing of the trailer feels deliberate, almost suffocating, as if the show wants us to sit with the discomfort rather than escape it. There are no big explosions shown, no dramatic speeches, just heavy looks, unfinished sentences, and the growing realization that every path forward leads to loss. Episode 8 doesn't promise easy answers or heroic saves. Instead, it promises something far more on-brand for Landman. Hard truths, irreversible choices, and the slow realization that some companies don't fail because of one bad decision, but because of many small ones that were ignored for far too long. One of the most unsettling things about the episode 8 trailer is how clearly it shows that silence has become Tommy's biggest enemy. Up until now, he has survived by delaying conversations, softening the truth, and convincing himself that tomorrow will somehow offer a better solution. But in this first look, tomorrow has officially arrived, and it does not look forgiving. Nate's role becomes much more intimidating here. He is no longer just the smart side character pointing out legal and financial issues. He feels like the voice of reality that nobody wants to listen to. The consequences he hints at feel final, the kind that don't leave room for negotiation or clever maneuvering. And what makes it worse is that no matter what option they choose, the outcome seems equally bad. Drill more, and the risk could bury them forever. Stop drilling and the company bleeds out slowly. This is where the trailer becomes almost claustrophobic, because every path forward feels like a dead end. Meanwhile, Cammy's trust in Tommy adds another emotional layer that makes everything heavier. She doesn't see a failing company. She sees potential, legacy, and something worth fighting for. Her belief is pure, almost naive, and the trailer makes it painfully clear that Tommy does not have the heart to crush that belief with the full truth. His hesitation to be honest with her isn't framed as cruelty, but as fear. Fear of being the man who admits defeat out loud. Fear of confirming what Galliano will later say with brutal honesty, that the company has been dying ever since Cammy's husband died, and no amount of effort can bring it back to life. That realization feels like the emotional core of episode 8. It's not about oil, money, or contracts anymore. It's about grief, denial, and the impossible expectation of fixing something that was already broken long before Tommy stepped in. The trailer also subtly reinforces how isolated Tommy has become. He's surrounded by people, yet every conversation feels one-sided. Everyone needs something from him, but no one is actually offering a solution. And that's what makes episode 8 feel so dangerous. Not because something explosive is guaranteed to happen, but because the weight of responsibility is finally pressing down on someone who may not be strong enough to carry it. The show isn't asking whether Tommy will make the right decision. It's asking whether there even is a right decision left to make.